Hi everyone, my name is Raven. I'm the current president of the Student Life Activities and Planning Board. So we wanted to do something in honor of Black History Month. So what we came up with is to have a discussion about the influences of Black America from a student's perspective. So there are about 5 questions, and you'll hear from each one of us on these questions. So, my major right now, I'm a pre-health major and hoping to transfer at the end of the semester to somewhere I don't know yet. So I'll let Kaitlyn introduce herself now.
Hello, my name is Kaitlyn Reinbold, and I am the interim executive vice president. I'm really excited to be here today, and I plan on transferring somewhere in New York at the end of the semester.
Haley?
Hi, I'm Haley. I'm currently running to be president of our little club here, and I'm also the current entertainment chair. Carmen?
Krystopher.
Sorry, I would not unmute. My name is Krystopher. I'm a SGA representative, but I'm also an SGA student government senator as well. And I'm really excited to be here and share my thoughts and answer these questions from my point of view as a white male in America. So.
Thank you. Ashley?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley, and I am an SGA representative for the Student Life Activities and Planning Board. I'm a social sciences major, and this is my last semester at RV, and I look forward to moderating this.
Yes. So, Sammy Daly?
Hi, my name is Sammy Daly. I'm a graphic and interactive design major. I plan on transferring the end of next year, and I'm also the VP of Marketing for the Student Life Activities Planning Board and a member of Student Government Association as the VP of Info and Media.
Carmen?
Hi, so my name is Carmen and I'm the VP of Finance. I am a general business major and I'm going to transfer to Rutgers Business School in the fall for accounting.
Connie?
Hi everyone, my name is Connie. I'm a biology and chemistry major and I'm a freshman here at RV.
Connie is also another presidential candidate for next academic year. And Faith.
Hi, everybody. My name is Faith Malin Bailey. I am a pre-med student here at RVCC, and I'm hoping to transfer to Cornell University by the end of next year. And I'm really excited to be here with you guys. And I'm not in a position, I'm just visiting. I'm really excited to participate in this discussion. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're also so excited that you're here. I was so happy when Connie told me that her friend wanted to be a part of this. I was like, that's amazing. Like, you don't even have to ask. That's amazing. So we really look forward to hearing from you and like getting to know you. Yes. Our advisor, Alicia Walker, is also here. I'm not sure if she wants to say a few words.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alicia Walker. I am the Assistant Director of Student Life, and I also serve as the advisor for the Student Life Activities and Planning Board and co-advisor for the National Society of Leadership and Success. So I'm looking forward to hearing the students' perspective today about Black Americans and how we contributed to America across the board. So good luck, everyone.
Thank you. I'll hand it over to Ashley now to moderate and start asking the questions.
All right, everyone. So we're going to ask a series of 5 questions, and each panelist will get about 2 to 3 minutes to answer each question. So we're going to start with the first one, which is, what Black American hero inspires you to do better? And we're going to start off with Connie.
All right, so I really admire Rebecca Lee Crumpler, and for those of you that don't know her, she was the first female African-American physician. So she attended the New England Female Medical College in the 1860s, and this is basically dedicated to research and treat diseases of women and children. So she eventually graduated in 1864, and she was the college's only African-American graduate. So in the start of her journey, she helped care for her sick neighbors, and she wanted to relieve the suffering of others. So I think that the amount of compassion and empathy, that she holds, and the amount of dedication and obstacles that she had to go through, especially against a system that was designed against her, for not only being a woman, but also being an African American, is honestly inspiring. And I can't imagine the amount of challenges that she had to go through and the amount of injustice that she had to face from sexism and racism. And this was at a time where women were seen as too delicate or not intelligent enough to be doctors. And it was also at a period where African Americans were not seen as human, let alone being denied hospital access, mistreated, and tested upon without their consent. So I think that there definitely needs to be more African American women in the medical field because they don't receive the treatment that they deserve. So I really admire her because she definitely was like a stepping stone for that. And I'm hoping that she helped change a lot of the errors of race correction in medical thinking, especially how Black women were treated in the field. So many of these race corrections, for those of you that don't know, they primarily focused on the treatment of Black patients, and it gave the wrong assumption that their bodies function differently. So I think that the sheer amount of strength that she had, especially during that time period, is something that I admire and look up to. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Connie. All right, so next we have Faith.
Okay, I would normally say that my mother is my hero because she has been my heroine since birth, and that is a fact because I would not know what I would do without her. She has been with me since birth, obviously, but she is my rock, and she's someone I could trust, basically. And I aspire to be like her when I get out into this world. But if you guys want me to name like a famous African American leader that inspired people, I would say Michelle Obama, hands down, because First Lady Michelle Obama was a catalyst in itself. She was a lawyer, a writer, the wife of the 44th president, Barack Obama, and she was the first, of course, African American First Lady. And she has been a role model for women and an advocate for healthy families, service members and their families, higher education, and the international adolescent girls' education. And she created many programs to elevate society's growth, such as Let's Move, Joining Forces, which she co-partnered with Dr. Jill Biden, which is the current First Lady, and Reaching Higher, Let Girls Learn, and so much more. She got involved in solving the many problems that our country has today, mainly our educational problems and the hierarchy that exists within it. And I would say she is a role model for young girls, especially African-American girls, and to me, because she is a living example that you can achieve anything in life. And if you work hard enough to, if you have enough determination to do so. And Michelle Obama is one of my many inspirations and is viewed to me as one of the best first ladies in the history of this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Faith. Now, Carmen.
Okay, so for me, I really like Megan Thee Stallion. I like her music, and I like what she stands for. More specifically, in regards to education and protecting Black women. So with education, she, I think, like a couple months ago, had a scholarship for women of color, and although I'm sad I didn't win, I was surprised that actually one of the winners was from a community college. As a side note, with all of us being community college students and how there's like a stigma that community college isn't as like high performing as four-year colleges, And in regards to Black women, I read an op-ed that she wrote for the New York Times and how Black women, when it comes to violence against them, it's always ignored. And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't realize the extent that Black women struggled. And I think when the whole incident with Tory Lane shooting her, and how I was like shocked at like all the comments, all the articles of how some people were completely dismissing her and saying she was lying, and how a lot of people were like making fun of her and joking, and the fact that she had to release a photo of her injury, which she shouldn't have, that's her right not to, but the fact that she felt like she needed to because people were completely dismissing her, and then the fact that Maxine Waters actually saw that and read that op-ed, and then they had a discussion. I think that is really important, and how we have to raise awareness of Black women in America.
Thank you so much. So now I'm going to open the floor if anyone wants to chime in.
I'm just gonna comment on like everyone's answers. I just absolutely loved every one of you guys' like answers. Connie, I didn't even know about the woman that you named, but I found that what you said was so true, which is like one of the like, not the main reason, but definitely one of like the important reasons that why I want to go into the medical field, because Black women specifically, like, and Black people, like the treatment they get compared to, well, white people or like other races, like it's crazy different. So I myself would like to be a part of that that group of people, I guess, that helps that. So I thought that was like really important. Faith, I love Michelle Obama. Like I read her book Becoming. I watched her show. Like I would have gone to like her book tour if I could have. Like
yes, I read
she is
book
just
too. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, like it's literally like in my room. Like she is just untouchable, literally, hands down. So definitely agree with everything you said. And Carmen, I also just, when you said Megan Thee Stallion, like I had to resist the urge to be like, oh my God, Megan, because I love Megan, and like she is such a an inspiration and such an activist and like an advocate for the right, like I don't want to say wrong, like mistreatment, like, but like she speaks a lot about the mistreatment of Black women. You could have seen that in like the accident that you brought up, where she was shot and people were making her out to be the bad person, which is ridiculous because she literally was the one who got shot. And that just is one of the many cases that shows how terrible that like Black women specifically are treated. So like I really loved all of you guys' answers, and I'm really excited to hear what else everyone else has to say on the future questions.
Kaitlyn?
I should just say, I am an English major, so somebody who's really been an inspiration to me is Alicia Walker and her poetry. I feel like reading it has definitely given me like a better understanding of how Black women are treated. And there are also many other like Black authors that I really enjoy reading, such as like Toni Morrison is a big one for me.
Alrighty, now we're going to move on to the next question, which is, why do you think having an African-American woman as a VP of the US is important? And we're going to start off with Raven.
Okay. So personally for me, the second I saw that she was running, I'm not even gonna like me and my mom from the get-go like wanted her to be elected as president. This is before like she like lost the primaries and stuff. Yeah, because she is just, it is so inspiring, not just to see like a woman running for president, but a Black woman with South Asian descent. And I think her dad, not her mom, her dad is also from Jamaica and I'm from Trinidad. So I was just like, wow, like she literally has Caribbean descent as well. And like it was such an inspiration that she was even, I mean, she didn't win president, which is fine because I do like the president we have right now, like you guys have right now. But when he chose her to be vice president, I think I literally teared up that day because I was just so happy and excited to see like, oh my God, finally like Black women are really like, for finally like stepping up to the role, you know, like um, being given those chances. And I am really looking forward to see what she has to do and like everything she has to say. She's already said and like done a lot, and it's just such an inspiration, especially for me as a Black woman I also have South Asian descent on my dad's side, and I'm from the Caribbean. So it's just like seeing her in that spot makes me realize and it is possible for me to like achieve all these things as hard as I try. So I think it's really important for not just me, but like young Black girls, young South Asian girls, young Caribbean girls, like the young woman to see this amazing person, like see this Black woman as vice president of the United States. Like it's crazy when you think about where we came from. It's just, yeah, it's really important. So that would be.
Thank you so much for your perspective, Raven. So we're going to move on to Faith.
Hi again. I think this question is self-explanatory in itself. Like Raven, I was ecstatic that she was elected as VP. I was like, finally, we are getting somewhere. And Kamala Harris, Kamala Harris has already made history by basically being the very first African-American and South Asian VP. I believe she is one of the keys to solve the racial injustice that we face today and to help this country pave the way to basically racial equality, because we are in desperate need of the African-American and the South Asian perspective on just to how to solve our issues. And I believe she is more qualified because she has experience in the police department as well as the government. So in these times of racial chaos, we need someone as skilled as her to help this country get itself back together and to see each other as equals instead of trying to kill each other, you know? And we can't afford to destroy ourselves because we need each other now more than ever. And hopefully with her as VP, we can come closer to that goal of reaching that inner peace that we have always talked about, basically unite this country as one. So, yeah.
Thank you, Faith. Now we're going to move on to Krystopher.
Hello again. I basically have almost everything exactly the same to say as Faith and Raven. I just feel like one of the most important things is that there's little girls out there and like boys and literally anybody out there that's young is seeing her in this position and saying like, I can do that too. I can get there too. And I think a lot of people aren't offered the same opportunities as white people or people that are in the place of privilege. And I feel like that's not talked about a lot. And I feel like, you know, there's always like, oh, you can do whatever you want to do and you can be whoever you want to be as long as you work hard enough. But I think that a lot of people aren't offered those opportunities, so they can never get there. And I think that having her as our vice president, I think that that shows that we're getting somewhere. Kind of like what Raven said, like where we came from and where we're going, and give people more opportunities and give people education and open up our arms to people. I think that that's something that she's really going to bring to the table. And again, I just think it's so important for young people to see her in that position and want to work towards being like her and seeing somebody that looks like them in a position of power. Because growing up, all I saw was people that looked like me, and I felt like I could do anything. And now being 23, I know that that is wrong, and that that's not okay, that I can think, oh, I can be whatever I want to be because of the color of my skin. So I feel like having her in that position opens up a lot of opportunities for people and clears people's doubts and fears and allows people to really reach for the stars, which everybody should have the opportunity to do no matter who you are or where you come from. So thank you.
Thank you, Krystopher. I definitely believe representation is so important for the exact same reasons as you. So now we're going to hear from Haley.
I'm kind of going to say something similar along the lines that Chris said. And it's that I think it's really important because growing up, I never really saw any any women in any sort of position of power, like where I kind of am growing up, because I'm still a kid pretty much. But where I go, like where I live, it's people tend to have the 50s mentality where it's the husband goes out to work and the women take care of like the children. And I never really grew up seeing women in any sort of really big position or having any sort of sway in things. And so seeing this now is honestly like, it really does feel kind of like a dream come true, because now, because I remember when I was a kid, there was only all throughout my time like going through school, I saw only one female principal in a area where, like with the school system, a majority of teachers tend to be female, and yet a majority of principals are male. And so I think it's really important for little kids to see this, and not only that, but it's also kids of color being able to see someone that actually looks like them, and that kind of gives them the courage to be like, okay, maybe I don't have to just stand down constantly. Maybe I don't have to constantly hold my tongue. Maybe I can finally stand up and actually have a voice on my own, and I don't have to worry about like being judged because I'm a person of color, or because I'm a girl, or anything kind of like along those lines. And yeah, so I don't know, it's really mind-blowing to see this.
Thank you, Haley. Does anyone else have any comments? Ready? All right. So we're going to move on to the third question. And it is, what are some challenges you have faced as a Black person in the United States? So we're going to start off with Raven.
Okay. So personally, I haven't been in the United States that long. Like I moved here in August of 2019 for school. But I had been there a couple of times, and I hadn't experienced racism firsthand, because I would like the times I'd been there, I'm so sorry, the birds outside, that's what you're hearing. The times I'd been there, I was like 5, maybe 8 the next time. I think the oldest besides now that I've been up there was like 12. So like I didn't really recognize like how extremely bad like we have it up there until like I came up at 19. And my first experience of like blatant racism is I had to get my social security, get a social security number so that I could work, because immigrants, like immigrant students aren't allowed to work off campus. Like we have to work on campus, but we can't work, or at least like get paid. We can't get paid unless we have a social security number. So I had to go get one. And obviously like I had like the certifications and everything to do it. So the lady that I saw was a white lady, and I didn't realize that it was racism until like, cause she was just like, oh, well, I can't give you this. Like, you're not allowed to have this. Like, you have to have like a card, a letter saying that you were hired first before I can like authorize you one, which was like pretty much wrong, because it's impossible. It would have been impossible for me to get hired if I didn't have a social security number. So like, I was kind of just like, what? But anyways, I went back to school, and thankfully like the person that was gonna hire me, like they were nice, so they did write that letter, even though like it really like I can't get hired until I have the SSN. So when I went back, like she was pissed that I was back, like I even got this, because like she knew that it's kind of impossible for me to get hired. And so she looked for every single reason not to give it to me. Like she nitpicked at every single thing. And eventually, like, she was like really, she was visibly upset. My aunt was there. She was visibly upset that she had to give it to me. Like, there was nothing else that she could have denied, like no other reason that she could have denied me. And so I was on my phone, and there was a white lady on her phone next to me, and she goes, "Oh, you're not allowed to be you're not allowed to use your phone here." So I didn't say anything, because at that point I'm just like, listen, if I say something, I'm not going to get my my number, and I just need to work, and I just need to get out of here. So I was just like, okay, I put it away. She looks at the lady next to me and does not this doesn't say anything. She just goes about her day. So I was like, wow. But I didn't, at that point, I still like, I think I was spoiled in the way, like, living in the Caribbean, like I hadn't, there is racism here, like colorism and stuff here, but like not like that. So like I didn't realize that there was racism. I just figured like she's just, I don't know, annoying or something. But when I left, I remember vividly being in the elevator down after she finally gave it to me, and my aunt was just like, you just experienced like firsthand your first experience with racism. And I was just like, oh, so that's what it was. And I felt so gross, like inside. I was just like, geez, because that was one of my biggest fears coming up, because I see, like, we all see, the entire world sees like the racial injustices that happen like in the US, not just in the US, but specifically speaking in the US. And so I was honestly, and so were my parents, terrified to come up there. But I had been going okay, like everyone was okay. But after that experience, I think that really like shook me. And going forward from that, I was very guarded in terms of how I speak and like what I say, or just even like if I'm just like in a fast food place or like restaurant or something, like I'm always so on edge, like somebody's gonna I don't know, try to kill me, or like try to get me deported, because they could do anything at that point. So I'm even scared of like those people like in positions such as like police or like whatever. Like I don't feel safe anywhere unless like I'm with family or like indoors. But yeah, so it's definitely been tough, but hopefully it gets better. I'm gonna have a positive outlook and just really pray that it gets better, because that was crazy.
Thank you, Raven. And I'm so sorry that you have to go through that. I will never understand that, but thank you. Sammie?
Yeah, hi. So there's like so I'm also well, my lineage is from the Caribbean, like Raven. I'm Jamaican American, but I was born and raised in New Jersey, so I feel like I have like a different perspective. Since like I've never even been like outside of North America my entire life. Um, so like there's a lot of challenges, but I think like I think the biggest challenges are kind of the ones that people call like microaggressions. I call them massive aggressions because they all add up to be one big thing at the end of the day. Like I remember being like, and I come from Franklin Township, which is like very diverse. Like my entire school district was mainly like, I would say like Latino and like Black, if like some white people and like a lot of like Asian people too. Like but it was very like where like minorities are kind of like the main demographic. But even then, like there would be like I'd be like on the bus in like elementary school, and I was just like a huge nerd, not big reading Harry Potter, and people would be like, "Whoa, like that's so white, Sammy. Like why are you reading Harry Potter?" And I'm like, "Why is reading white?" I'm like I'm reading a book. Um, and like and then another time, like I was in middle school and I was listening to Jimi Hendrix. And if you don't know who that is, he's a Black rock star from like the 60s. And this like white kid was like, "That's so white, you're listening to Jimi Hendrix." And I was which makes absolutely no sense, yeah, whatsoever. Especially since like Black people made like rock music, but people act like Elvis did and he didn't. So like, I think things like that kind of just like add up to be like, leave me alone. Is it the big thing? Also like lack of representation, which kind of goes back to the whole like Kamala Harris, Michelle Obama thing that you guys were talking about earlier. Like I remember like vividly it being like 8 or 9 and them announcing like on the news that like that Princess and the Frog was coming out and there's gonna be like the first Black Disney princess, and like I was like so hyped up for that because like I just like, even though I didn't like fully grasp exactly like what like racial injustice really was yet because I was just so young, I just like, it was like the first time I can think of it like hitting me that like, oh, I'm like never like, people like me are never really like in the media. Like there's never been like a Black Disney princess. And I was like, and it was like 2009. I was like seeing on the news and they were saying like Princess Tiana and stuff. And I was like, oh damn, like that's big, you know? So Black representation, I mean, it's still a problem even today, even though that was like over 10 years ago. Still a problem, but there's still many TV shows like where if there's a Black person in the TV show, they're either like the Black best friend who has like no storyline whatsoever to their character, or they're like the thug, the one selling drugs, like the bad guy. You never really see, especially in like rom-coms, most rom-coms are centered around like white people. And there's a Black person, they're like the best friend or the side character or the extra person. It's very rare that you see stories of like Black people being in like a positive light. So I think that Black representation, just like growing up, makes you think like am I even like worthy of like, you know, these like stories and these moments in a way. I think that's a big one. Another one I can think of is just like the whole like like lack of knowledge that people have distinguishing things um like race versus nationality versus ethnicity, you know, like people, because like I had like, friends growing up who who would be like, you know, like, oh, like do you like celebrate Kwanzaa or something? And I'm like, well, my family is not African, we're Jamaican, so we don't. And they're like, oh, but aren't you like African American? And I'm like, well, I define myself as Jamaican American because like Caribbean culture is like kind of completely different in a way. So like I don't, like, you know what I mean? Um and I think like that whole like distinguishing like all of those things is like a whole another problem within itself, but it's still prevalent today. I mean, like, because you know, if I'm talking to like a white person, I'm not like, hey, you're a European American. Like you're just like, oh no, like you're white. Because you can be white and you can be from somewhere outside of Europe. Just like you can be Black and you can be like Afro Latina. You can be Black and you can be from somewhere else. You can be white and be from like South Africa. You know, there's like I think that in itself is a challenge in a lot of ways. So yeah, that's like the tip of the iceberg, I would say, of challenges I've faced as a Black person in the United States. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Sammy, for sharing that. So does anyone else want to chime in on that?
I would like to say something. Oh, no, sorry, Raven. Do you want to go first?
No, I'll say it after. Go ahead. I spoke already.
Okay. Obviously, I'm not a Black person living in America, but I grew up in a very inner city area. And I would say that I grew up in, unfortunately, poverty because that is where a lot of people of color are found because of the way that the government likes to treat people and the way that our world works, unfortunately. So I lived in that area and I was really one of the only white guys at my school. So I was able to see how much racism there really truly is. And I feel like me growing up in that environment really allowed me to open my eyes and be an advocate so much sooner for people of color because of the different things that I saw and the little things that Sammy was talking about, like microaggressions. They really should be called major big aggressions because it's small things like when somebody doesn't speak a certain way and they get labeled as speaking white because they sound intelligent. Like, why is education a white thing? Why is, again, reading a white thing? Why can't people of all different races and ethnicities and like people of all walks, why can't we all enjoy the same things without them being labeled as a white thing? I think that that's really demeaning and that's a very aggressive thing to say to somebody. to label them as a white person because they're reading a book or because they're doing certain things. And I think that there's also more sensitive things that I've witnessed. I have been in the car with my friends who were Black, who were driving, and we were pulled over and they were not treated fairly. And then there was actually one point where I was treated as if they had somehow like taken me, and the cops didn't believe that they were my friends and that I was lying and that I was in danger somehow being in the car with my friends, where I actually felt safer with my friends than I did with the police officer, as I usually do. Can see how people are afraid, like Raven said, to leave their home. That's the fear that my race has put, like that I just like, I really don't have a lot of words to say, like that fear that we have instilled into people. It's really truly disgusting to me, and that's why I advocate so much, because I want to use my voice and my platform, because like unfortunately, like people are going to listen to me in spaces more than others. So if I can get out there and have people think that I'm going to say something completely different and go out there and scream that Black Lives Matter, that means something to me. You know, like I have to do everything that I can do as a person in my position, because I have so much privilege, not only being white, but I'm a male. Like I can walk outside right now. I can walk outside at midnight and no one's going to do anything to me, maybe, but like probably not. So like, and that's like wrong that you can't even go outside like at all. Like when are you supposed to go outside? Like never, you just stay in your house. That's horrible. We need to get somewhere better. We need to be better. So as a white person, I really hope that people can hear my voice and that I can get through to some people. I don't know. I just want people to love. So I hope that that message gets across. I don't know. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll just say something really quick. Like, first of all, like I love Chris. Like he always just has the perfect thing to say. I love Chris. Anyways, I was gonna say one on what Sammie said about like the whole title of African American. Like for me personally, like that has also always been like a kind of thing in my mind. Like it always, because I'm not, we it's hard to like, I just find that I don't know how to explain it. Like I had it in words and now it's like gone. But every time I have to like tick that box, like what's your race, then just like African American, I'm just like, first of all, I'm not even American. And I I would just rather them just call it like, you know, Black, or like if I know some people have like a, because of how like, it's crazy because like it's a race, but because of how often like people throw it around like, oh, she's Black, like, oh my gosh, like it sounds like it's like a bad thing, like a kind of gross word, so people prefer African American, and I understand that. It's just like it's not representative of every Black person. So that's one thing. And what Chris was saying, kind of like being afraid to like walk outside and stuff, like, I mean, but I also said that, but like I'm talking like what he was talking about, it's so serious in the fact, like the way that me, I feel like I can't even, if I do experience racism, like I can't even like stand up for myself, because then I have to think of, okay, like if I stand up for myself and this person like says that I'm attacking them, and like even if I just say something, because you know how they
Right.
take it,
And then it's
yeah,
like, are you attacking them? And that's how it always gets turned. And it's always like, I want to
exactly,
see the rest of the video. What did she say? What did he do? It doesn't
exactly,
matter. Why are you crapping on that person? You know, like just
exactly.
love everybody. Like, ew. God,
Thank you. It's
ew.
just like, it's ridiculous. Like it's ridiculous that I can't even stand up for myself without worrying that somebody is going to take it the wrong way, or like make it, turn it on me and make me look like the bad person. And that, like for me personally, that can get me literally kicked out of the country. So I can't even do it. So
And
it's
I
just, it's,
think that also a lot of like, I think like Black women also can't even get upset about anything, because
yeah,
all of a sudden you're a crazy Black woman. And
angry
then
Black
it's
woman,
like,
yeah.
okay, thanks, Tyler Perry. Like, this isn't what like Black women are. Like, this is not it. They are passionate, emotional, empathetic human beings, just like the rest of us. And if not more empathetic, and the power that is within. Why can't Are you scared? Like, you should be, because like they are so powerful and so loving. Like, I feel like it's intimidation almost, or fear that they're gonna be better. I don't know.
Exactly. So I'll let Ashley move on to the next question, because I know we spent a lot of time on this one, but I just had a lot to say, and I guess everyone else did too. So go ahead.
Okay, so this kind of ties into our next question, which is, how do you, as an ally to the Black Lives Matter movement, do your part to uplift Black voices, and what does allyship look like to you? So we're gonna start with Haley.
All right, first of all, everyone in that for that last question was so well said, and I'm honestly really proud of everyone. So that, first of all, I'm sorry. But kind of as an ally to the BLM movement, it is really important for, at least, and this is from my perspective, and this is something that I actively try to do, is I try to learn from the other side's perspective, because for me, I grew up, I am still kind of growing up in a majority white, very country area. And so there really are virtually no minorities around where I live. And so whether it be people who I meet like online or through school, to me, it's very important to try and learn from them. And also, it's also super important because Instagram is a very big platform. Instagram and Snapchat are two very big platforms, especially among teenagers nowadays. So it's very important to spread information and kind of try and knock down any of the misinformation that gets spread around, and to also call out things that are not right. For example, I'm kind of going to tie this into the last question a bit. Before, Sam mentioned the Princess and the Frog movie, and that in that movie, yes, it was the very first Black Disney princess. However, she also spent a majority of the movie as a frog. And that is a common occurrence among minorities within that Disney in particular produces. Taking, for example, Brother Bear, Pocahontas, like
Why can't Black people be characters and not animals? Please stop the internalized race. The racism it's so strong. We have gotten nowhere, really. If you look into everything, where have we gotten?
Yeah.
Please.
And also, it's really important that if you say you support the feminist movement, that, or the LGBTQ plus QIA plus movement, okay, you're going to stand up for these two groups, but not support another group that also deals with these very horrible issues that can sometimes go hand in hand. And I don't think a lot of people see that. Like, for example, even today, I have a rainbow behind me. That is not necessarily Black Lives Matter movement. However, it ties in almost perfectly, because a lot of times when we think of the LGBTQ plus movement, we think of the riots that happened, like, I forget the exact name, the Stonewall riots, in which one of the main figureheads, essentially, for that was a Black trans woman. And so I think it really is important to, if you support one movement, then you have to understand the connection between all of them. And just because it doesn't directly affect you, that doesn't mean that it doesn't affect your friends. It doesn't mean that it can't indirectly affect you, as selfish as that may sound. But it really is important to kind of look at all sides of the story and kind of spread that information around, because others may not have access to that information, and B, they may just at the end of the day not realize it, because because people tend to think, well, if it doesn't affect me, so why should I care? This is why. Because with women, it's kind of well known that for the most part there is still a wage gap. However, even among women, for example, I'm going to just kind of use an example with some of the people in this chat. I would get paid more than, say, Carmen, or say Raven or Ashley. And that's just because I am a white woman and you guys are all considered minorities, really. And it's not right.
And then I would just be getting paid more than all of you. And that's just horrible, because
Exactly.
I don't know why, when we can do all the same amount of work the same way.
Exactly. And so, yeah, like that really is just my point, where it's like, if I can support the LGBT movement or the feminism movement, I should support like all of the other movements that are going on, because America right now, we're really taking these issues to light, and people, and as bad as this may sound, the white men in these very high corporate positions, they don't like it, because we're finally giving each other voices that we've been trying to fight for since who knows how long. And at the end of the day, we're just all fighting to be treated equally and as people. So because I saw a post earlier on social media, and I'm sorry, I'm taking forever. This is just something I'm very passionate about. Is if a white man looks into the mirror, he sees a human being. When I look into the mirror, I see, oh, I'm just a girl. When Black women or any other minorities look into the mirror, they see either an object, a thing, something that basically an animal, which is not right. And it's unfortunate that that type of language has been used for years and has not been called out on, quite honestly. Like, and it really is not right. So yeah. And so, once again, sorry for taking so long. It's just, there really is a connection with everything.
Thank you so much, Haley. That was an amazing perspective. So now we have Krystopher.
Hello again. I think my allyship and my activism looks a little bit different just because of the position that I'm in and the abilities that I have. So I take everything to the absolute extreme. I do call myself an extremist when it comes to protesting and when it comes to certain things like that. I have been, well, I guess I'll just say what my activism looks like. So I have been to protests. I stand in front of Black people at protests so that if shooting starts, I'm the one that gets hit. I stand with them, I walk with them, next to them, not behind them, always in front or next to. I'm on the same level. I have in all of my social media profiles at the beginning, before my name is like addressed, it says BLM. In all of my bios, it says that trans rights are human rights, Black trans lives matter, ACAB, Black Lives Matter. Any movement that I stand for, I put in there and I actively talk about it. I am actively speaking on everything from mental health to environmental impacts and how there is no Whole Foods or any organic food grocery stores in any lower income areas or in areas where it is more diverse or minority demographic is higher. I talk on housing issues, housing privileges. I talk on everything from drug addiction to LGBTQ, because that is all intertwined with the same thing. Black women, Black trans women built the LGBT community. They are the heart and the soul. And that's why there is anything. That's why there's a community. That's why there's a fight. That's why there's a drive. That's why, because of Black women. So I think that there's a lot of racism and things inside of the LGBT community. A lot of racism and a lot of hatred comes directly from gay men or from people who feel that they have a right to the community. And I think that when you're an activist, you have to just constantly fight and constantly repost and constantly post things and make sure nothing is ever a phase, because okay, for me, like, it might not be showing up on my timeline, but I need to go and search for it because it's not a phase for my best friend who is, who's an African American, and she lives in Camden. I don't know if any of you even know where that is, but it's a really not a great place. And I lived there for a really long time, and she still lives there. And she can't go anywhere without being afraid that the cops are going to get her, because she's walked down the street and they've asked her where she's going, where she's coming from, when she's literally just coming from the store. So it's just unimaginable. And I think that I need to just, again, like I've said before, I just need to use my voice and use my platform, because I know that I have privilege and I know that people will listen to me. And I know that in the position that I'm in, I'm able to do things like stand in front of somebody at a protest. That means something when you're willing to put your life in front of somebody else's, because you know your life has been put in front of theirs since the moment they were born. And I think that a lot of people need to realize that. And it's a very deep thing, and it's something that, like, I can understand a lot of people grow up differently. Like Haley was saying, grow up in different areas. Like, I come from a very, I don't like to use the term, but my family is very redneck, and I was more of a black sheep, and I didn't like follow into any of that. And when I go to family events and when I do things, they are, yeehaw and saying things that aren't right. And I'm constantly like, you have to stand up. It doesn't matter if they're your family. It doesn't matter if they're your friend. It doesn't matter if anything. You do not feed into racism. You do not feed into hatred. It doesn't matter. Like, there's so many things I see on social media of like girlfriends like posting about their boyfriend being like racist. And I'm like, leave him. He's hateful, and he's only going to hate you, and he's going to hate everybody you're around. And you won't ever have any black friends, and you won't ever have anybody but you and your husband. And if that's the way you want to live, that's great, but don't post about it. Or when people talk about how racist their parents are. And it's like, but did you say anything to them? Did you stand up? I can understand if you don't have the place to do that, and if you're not safe to do that, please don't. But if you are, and you know that you can, or if you know you can just fly a flag, or you can make your profile picture something, or you can literally just say something to somebody, like compliment a black person today. Make sure that they know that they matter, because it, again, like how everybody has said in this panel, people are afraid to leave their house. People are afraid to react. People are like, if somebody gives you an attitude at the grocery store, you should be able to be like, why are you speaking to me that way? And not be afraid to. You should be able to step to somebody and say, that's not right, without feeling like you're going to be killed or assaulted or arrested or whatever. Like, it's just crazy. So I think that activism looks like any little tiny bit that you can do to make your voice be heard. You have to. And if you're a white person, you have to even more. You have to. It's like silence is violent. You cannot stay silent anymore. We've been silent for way too long. I've never been silent. And if anybody knows me outside of this panel, I'm never quiet. I always speak my opinion on anything, and I don't care who it hurts, and I don't care who it offends. I'm unapologetically me, and I'm unapologetically a lover to everybody. So it doesn't matter. And I'm always going to say that, and I'm always going to fight. I'll be 80 years old and saying Black Lives Matter, even hopefully when all this is over and we all are done with the hatred and the worms in the brain and the whatever people are on. I don't know. So when we're all sitting, I'm still going to have my flag and be like, remember when I cared before all of you did. So I really just need everybody to make that step if they can. It's literally just putting a hashtag, interacting with a post, literally anything. Just because you're not seeing it on in your timeline doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Black lives are not a phase. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your activism, and that was so beautifully said. We're going to move on to Kaitlyn.
Okay, so when I talk about my allyship, the first thing I have to say is that I am a strong believer that history repeats itself. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing. And I also think it's absurd that the same people who helped get LGBT and women like rights aren't like talking about this issue. Yeah, so from my perspective, I grew up in a town where I could count the number of people of color that were in my school on my hand. And my neighbor has a Confederate flag in their window. So I'm on the outside of kind of like a very diverse town. And it's been interesting to see the divide that has been happening because of like Black Lives Matter and the election and everything like that. You see one side, then you drive like two streets up and there's just like another side. It's crazy. And our country is so divided right now, and it has been for a really long time. And I can't stand to see it anymore. I mean, I couldn't when I was younger too, but I lived in a place where I didn't really feel like I had to say. I didn't feel like I could say much of anything. Like I will say that like my high school was, well, it was in the town that Haley lives in, so very very like I don't like to use it, but redneck. And yeah. So just being gay in that school, seeing kind of like and if you're trans, that was just, you were not, it wasn't good for you. They were more okay with people of color, but there wasn't very many. Coming from a place like that, I can't really talk about the issues. But when I went to RV and first came here, I could start to talk more about it, and I've been researching it, and I definitely like to see history and see like what we could do to kind of prevent things from happening that happened in the past. And that's one of my main focuses for my career in probably journalism. I don't want history to repeat itself. I want people to be well informed about the issues. Also, I think it's really sad that the media doesn't portray Black lives, and like there aren't any like Black superheroes until now, I would say, or main superheroes. But thankfully, like things are changing in that perspective, but we still have a long way to go. And I think it's crazy how people can just say that, oh, my life matters too, even though I'm not Black and I'm not being attacked for my race and I'm not facing these issues. I don't know. A big part of everything that I do is based on how I care way too much about other people. So I will do anything for somebody if they ask me. And I hate to see people hurting. I hate to see people like in bad positions. And I hate that it has been like over 100 years and Black people like still don't have the same rights as everyone else. And I think that's just stupid. I think like how do we let it get that far? I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I really want to see a change. I can't stand it anymore.
I'm going to tag something on to along what Kaitlyn just said, because we did kind of grow up near each other. Like Kaitlyn's town is maybe 10, 15 minutes away from mine. It's that around here, when I'm driving on my way to work, I see Trump flags everywhere, which has kind of become a sign of hatred for many things. But also I've been in kind of conversations around these, and I am not going to name names or name like how I know these people. I've kind of been in conversations where people were like, the BLM movement, like, is essentially a bunch of like where they called the BLM movement terrorists, and yeah, and where they would like preach about all lives matter. Well, I feel bad for the police who are dealing with this. Like they deal with so much. Meanwhile, they're taking this from also an educational standpoint, because we're all college students. They did a study recently where they sent one police officer along with someone who knows about mental health to these kind of one of these impoverished neighborhoods to see if they can cut down on any of the violence. And throughout that entire experiment, there was not one case where it resulted into violence, which I think kind of says a lot. And I think we should also take into consideration that we all know what paramedics are, correct? Well, paramedics, the reason why they came to be was because it was originally put all on police officers to kind of take care of these emergency situations. And they noticed that a lot of more Black people I think it was near Philadelphia. I could be wrong on that, and I'm sorry if I am. It was one big city. And they noted, this man noticed that in these Black neighborhoods, people were dying. Like they were dying, and it took, and I feel horrible that I can't remember his name, but it took one man to kind of say, hey, look, let's put a stop to this right now, because these people are dying when they shouldn't be. And I think people are kind of noticing the same thing nowadays, but because they don't know how the story of paramedics began, they don't understand that this is a situation that we need to fix, and there are solutions. People just aren't recognizing them.
Thank you, Haley. So we're going to move on to our final question, which is, what impact has Black culture had on your life, and what aspects of popular culture have been inspired by Black culture and influence? So we're going to start with Faith.
Okay. Basically, what aspects of popular culture have been inspired by Black culture and people? I can name a bunch of these. Basically, cuisine, fashion, dance, popular icons such as Betty Boop and the White House. Everything is based off of African American culture, like cuisine. This goes back all the way to slavery times. We took scraps that slave owners gave us and turned them into delectable meals, such as like chitlins, and which I love chitlins. And basically, we have this gift where we can transform what others view as trash into our personal treasures in a way. And basically, we're not getting credit for that. Like with Betty Boop, she was actually a Black person who was putting on this persona of her, right? But they put her as a dog. She was a dog originally, and it makes you think: does society see us as animals, like everyone else was saying earlier? Like the Lion King, that was one of the first African themed Disney movies, and I love the Lion King, don't get me wrong, but it just makes, and with Princess and the Frog, like how someone mentioned earlier, she was basically 80% a frog the entire movie and was not a human, and it just makes you wonder why this is happening. And the White House, it was built on the backs of slaves. All congressional buildings, they were built on the backs of slaves, and not a lot of people acknowledge that. And music is a prime example. Like everything stems from jazz, the blues, even Elvis Presley. Some of his songs were copied from other Black artists, such as like Big Mama Thornton with what's that song called? Jailhouse Rock, I think. And basically, it's just we're not getting enough credit for influencing society, because it just amazes me how much we do for this country, yet this country treats us like crap and treats us like we're inferior to everybody else. And it makes no sense to me. And yeah, I think that's it. So.
Thank you so much. Haley?
I'm kind of going to piggyback on what Faith was talking about, where with Betty Boop, it was, and I'm going to take her example and kind of elaborate on a little bit more, because it's really important to know this kind of like minute detail, really, is that Betty Boop was modeled after a Black jazz singer. Jazz was a type of jazz, and the blues was originally developed by Black people. And so, and funny story, if you take, because we've also mentioned Elvis here, I'm sorry, I'm able to make very weird connections between everything, so I'm sorry. But blues and the jazz music were created on plantations by these African slaves, trying to keep their culture alive, really, in the time where they were being punished for no reason, really. And blues and jazz eventually formed to make rock music, once again taking these African as well as Caribbean influences, because that's where people were taken from as well. Rock music, and same with country music too, which we think of as kind of white people yeehaw kind of things. It really all stems back to plantations, to these people who were forced to work against their will. And rock music, what people don't know is Elvis grew up in a Black church. That's how he knew about rock music, and that's kind of how he was able to master it, really, was through the way that he grew up. And it really is funny to I say funny, but please understand what I mean. To think, it's kind of funny to think about how you cannot touch essentially a single thing without it having some sort of influence by a Black person. And like, you can even, because this school, we have a dance club. There is really only one type of dance that was ever fully made by white people that really had zero influence by anyone outside of Europe, really, and that's ballet. And it really, Black culture really does have an influence on everyone and everything that you do. Like, even if you don't flat out realize it, or it isn't blatantly obvious. Because because a lot of things that nowadays we associate with white people were originally inspired by these instruments or other kind of cultural aspects from parts of Africa or parts of the Caribbean or South America. And it's also another thing that people don't talk about is, if you want to look at biology standpoint, is there's a woman named Mother X who was I believe her skeleton was found in Uganda or one of the African countries in that kind of area. And I'm sorry, I don't remember what exact country it was off the top of my head. But she basically is the closest ancestor that every single human being on this planet right now has. And this was an African woman. So you can't say, oh, well, Black lives don't matter to me, or anything of the sort really matter to me because it doesn't affect me because I have no relation to anyone. When that is blatantly, even on a biological standpoint, you cannot say it's true at all. Because, it just isn't. So, yeah.
Thank you, Haley. And last but not least, we have Krystopher.
Hello. I want to take this time just to read a few things that we wouldn't have without Black individuals. And it really starts off with our American clocks, our elevator doors and blood banks, clothing dryers, dustpans, electric lamps, and folding chairs, gas heating for your house, gas masks, home security systems, ice cream scoopers, lawnmowers, mailboxes, modern locks, a mop, a pacemaker, portable pencil sharpener, potato chips, reversible baby stroller, genius, super soaker, like the water gun. Are you kidding? White people didn't make anything. And that's really so sad that a lot of people think that these things were created by white individuals because, big corporate, big white people own all of these companies and make all of these things now. And the person who came up with the idea was not white. Like the traffic light, literally so many things. The telephone that we use now, a thermostat and suspenders for all of those racists to keep their pants up. Like that's just, it's really unimaginable. Like there's nothing in your life that you haven't touched that wasn't invented or thought of or created or grown or just imagined by a Black individual. And I just really, I know Kaitlyn's not here anymore, but what she was saying about how she just feels like it's very stupid that we're here. And that's how I feel. And I like really don't want to use that word because obviously everything that people go through is not stupid and it's not anything, but it is absolutely idiotic to me that we are at this point and that we haven't been able to move from it, because it's just, I think that it's just also hard for me as a person to think one way and to be surrounded by people that think the same as I do, and then other people really not being able to get a handle on that. Like, I don't understand why housing is a privilege. I don't understand why food and education are privileges when you are nothing without knowledge. We are nothing without knowing something. And that doesn't mean going to school or paying for anything. There are people that live literally in the actual jungle. There are people that live in the middle of nowhere off the grid, and they get their education from the people around them, from books, from teaching themselves about the land and the environment. And that's all knowledge. And a lot of people don't have opportunities to that. A lot of people live in cities and live and don't even have the ability to have access to things that their people created. Some people don't even have heat in their house, but a Black person invented that. So why can't all Black people have that? Why do almost all white people have that? I'm not saying all white people, don't go through things, because I grew up and I was homeless for a really long time. And I feel like that's also where I get a lot of my sympathy and understanding, because I lived on the same level as a lot of people, and I was also able to pull myself out of it. So being able to come from that and pull myself out of it, I never forgot where I came from. And I always go back to where I came from, and I always try to help out people, because those people influenced me. There was never a police officer that came and asked me if I was okay when I slept on a park bench. There was actually an older Black woman that lived right down the street from me. I don't know where she lived, but she did live on the streets. And she would come walk down and make sure I was okay every morning. I don't know her name, but she was the only one that ever cared. And that's so crazy that everybody has one Black woman that has made such an impact on them. And that was mine, just some spirit lady, some literally Mother X, just floating by my park bench that I was sleeping on. And she was there for me, and I never forget that. And that's so incredible. And I wish that she was able to get out of the streets as fast as I was, and able to get the opportunities that she was. Because I know if she applied for the same jobs as I was, she was never going to get them. And I know if she asked for help, she was never going to get it, and different things like that. But I also still put myself on the same level. I never asked for a ride home from a cop if I needed it. I walked home in the dark. I said, my friends are walking, I'm walking. I'm not going to put my privilege above everybody else. So I think that everybody needs to really remember that everything around them was created by somebody that's a minority. Again, white people really didn't create a lot of things. And that's not me being hateful towards white people, but we didn't really do anything. We steal. That's what we do. As a white person, I feel like I can say that. I'm allowed to say that. We steal. And we are thieves, and we take things that aren't ours and say that they are ours. And that's wrong. And we've been doing that since we hurt the Native Americans, since literally before that, when I'm sure we were hurting somebody else somewhere else. I don't know where, but I'm sure we were somewhere being mean, because I can't imagine we were just sitting in Britain, just hanging out. I'm sure we hurt China, or we hurt Japan. We hurt all of those people. We've hurt them recently. We hurt them all the time. So we have never stopped doing that. And I don't understand why we feel like we are above everybody else. Because again, we've never shown that we were. We've never, all of our influences, again, what Faith was saying, what music wasn't created by a Black person? What music can you listen to right now and say, I think I've heard that tone before, or that sounds oddly familiar? Or why can I shake it to everything? Because Black people created it, because Black people have rhythm and they have that tone. And I think that white people tried to take all of that and just say that we have it. We don't even season our food all the time. Honestly, truthfully, my mom literally never did that. And I had to grow up and teach myself those things. So I don't know. I think that we really need to be aware of all the influences that are around us and take them in. I don't know why people are so like offended by it. Like when they hear like music and they're like, oh, that sounds like thuggy. I'm like, I love that. Like I just create music, create sounds, create like lyrics, create anything because like, I don't know. It's language. It's creation. I don't know. I embrace all of it. Like I was reading the other day that there was a Black woman who owns she owns a company where she does like bonnets and stuff, but she was talking about the effects that has on people of all races, how a satin bonnet can actually help anybody's hair. Like that's not just like, that's not so much exclusive thing. She was like, I want everybody to come and buy my bonnets. I want everybody to be able to have a healthy scalp. Like why, and then some people are against that and then other people are for it. And I think that as long as you're not culturally appropriating and you're doing it in a respectful manner, like if there's one business that says I would like to only sell to Black individuals and I don't really want white people wearing my product, that's fine. There's plenty of other places out there, like this other Black woman who was saying my bonnets are specifically designed for different types of hair. So I think that we should be embracing these influences and letting them happen and not saying that like our life is getting like thuggy or using that word ghetto that I hate literally so much, because what is that? Just because you've never heard it before, just because it's a different slang. Like, and I also don't really like the word slang either because it's all language. It's all language. My partner is a linguistics major. So I really am very passionate when it comes to there's everybody who, there's anybody can create something and it's not ghetto just because that's the way you talk, that's your dialect. That's the way that people understand you. Like, how is that wrong when everybody around them can understand them, but you seem like you're the problem for not being able to understand and open your mind. And the same thing with people who have longer names, who feel like they can't use their real names in the States because they can't pronounce it. Okay, but you can spell Michaela with like 12 Ks and a Y and a I and like a silent Q. There's like kids with the name Apple and you can't say like literally anything. Absolutely not. Like my cousin, she's from Japan and her name is Kiyomi and she literally just goes by Ki half the time. And I'm like, Kiyomi, you people can't say that? Are you kidding? Like, I can understand like if it was written in Japanese, like maybe I can't understand that, but I would love to learn how to read it. But I can understand that. But literally, like there's no silent letters. And people were saying, oh, I don't, and Kiyomo, and like saying all these like things that are like oddly racist. And I'm like, I don't understand it. We change ourselves for one thing, but won't change ourselves for another. And it's like, I really don't get it. You know me, I'm always just saying I don't get it because I just feel one way and wish everybody felt the same. I don't know. So I think that Black lives influence us massively in every aspect whatsoever, like literally everything around us. So I think we should just be more aware of that and give credit where credit's due, because I didn't know any of that stuff was invented by Black people until recently. And I'm 23. I didn't learn that in school. And like, that's wrong. So I feel like the influence needs to be more, and it needs to be more apparent, and it needs to be out there. So thank you.
Thank you. I see. Okay, so Kaitlyn, I'm gonna get to you. So basically, that was the last question. I'm gonna let everybody here give. Well, a few of our members had to leave, unfortunately, but I'm gonna let everybody here give like a minute or less a final thought. Like, yeah, I'll let you go. Go ahead, Haley, because I saw you had your hand up.
I kind of want to just tag on to something that Chris mentioned that kind of hits a bit more home for me. Is when I used to work in the fast food. I used to work in fast food, and I was getting called all of these horrible like things. I was getting called, oh, do you have ADD? Oh, you're so autistic. Oh, you're such a retard. Like I was getting called these things for being very happy and joyful and kind of being myself. And I remember that every once in a while there would be, and it was very specific, it was this specific, there would always be either like a mom, like kind of like 30s or older Black woman who would every once in a while would come in, and it was different people, and they would like call me like sweetie and honey, and that I remember that because they were the only people to actually make me feel like I was a human when I was at work, and that's including among my own coworkers. Like they really like these, every once in a while these complete utter strangers would come in and say something that nice, and that I never really, meanwhile from these white people, for lack of better terms, like they would, I would get called so many horrible, I get called a lot of different names by these white people for being happy. Meanwhile, these Black women actually noticed and were very like sweet and nice to me. And like, I still remember, and I still kind of have these fond memories of it. So, but yeah, sorry. But yeah, I don't know. Thanks for dealing with my tangents.
I think I just wanted to add like one more thing. Something that you were saying about working in fast food. When I worked at a gas station, and if a lot of you don't know, I am trans. So I came out a long time ago, and I've been in college for like 5 years now. I've been in college forever. I've been doing this whole thing forever. And I think that the most hate that I did get was from white people. And I think that when I first came out, the only men that made me, I just don't feel comfortable around men in general, cisgendered men in general. So I never expected to feel as safe and accepted around Black men as I did. I remember I went to a barbershop, and it was the first time I ever went to a barbershop. And this guy that I know, Sid, he owns it, and he's a Black guy. And he was literally so cool and so accepting. And he was like, you should never go to Supercuts. You always come here to get your hair cut. And like the way he did it was just so nice, and he was so accepting, and it just felt so good. And the whole time he didn't even know I was trans. And that felt good that I almost feel like white men are looking for something wrong with you when they look at you. And no matter who you are, if you're a woman or a man, or if you're anybody, they're always looking for something to pick on. Because you always get that one man that's always like, why aren't you smiling? It's like, why are you looking at me? You know, I like, don't look at me. So I feel just very safe around like Black men in general, just being in the space that I am. But that also doesn't go to discredit the violence and the disrespect and stuff that Black women do face from all types of men. So just because I feel safe in some situations with Black men doesn't mean everybody across the board should feel safe around men, because we know how that goes. So I don't know. I just wanted to add that I've also like faced a lot of that hate, and it's only ever come from white people. I literally don't think I've ever had a Black person say anything hateful towards me. And that's like, that feels so like shocking to say, like one whole race hasn't said anything negative. I've never had anybody say anything really negative to me except for white people. I've only been accepted by like my Obachan. She's from Japan, and she literally loves me. As soon as I came out, she literally made me this like little beanie. She just sits and like crochets and like knits and like listens to the Japanese news channel and like doesn't listen to anything anybody says ever. And she's just like the cutest little thing. And she loves me so much because she's not a white lady. And like, I don't know, I hate to say it, because my white grandmom, she sucks. She's not nice to me. She's a hater. And that's okay. I can say that. That's my grandma. She's a hater. She's a straight up hater. And that's okay. Because my Obachan got me. And that's okay. Like my grandmom, who is not white, has me. So I feel like very safe in different situations with people of color, just because there's a different level of respect. Like, I don't know, I feel like people in different cultures other than European, I guess that's whatever culture this is, the European culture, I feel like there's not a lot of respect, and there's only respect for like the man or for the head of the household, and there's no respect for like women or children or anybody at all. the neighbor, the person at the store, like anybody. So yeah, white American culture, it's just like, it's so much different. There's no respect, there's no patience, there's no love, there's no care, there's no anything. There's get it done, work hard, and if you don't work hard, you won't have anything. And if you don't have money, you're not happy. The romanticism around those things are just horrible. And then there's just like Black people and like Asian people and Spanish people that are just literally living their lives. And people are like, look at the way they live. They're so unhappy. Look at like showing like pictures of people living like in the islands, or people living in like Spanish countries, or living in different places, and like in these little houses, and like all these things are like, look at the poverty. And it's like, that's how they live. That's not poverty. That's just their environment. That's how they live. Just because like they don't have a flat screen, like they don't want one. That's weird to want a flat screen. Like, get it through your head. It's weird to want those things. People want to go outside and play. People want to grow plants. People want to go visit their family. People want to create art and music and dance. And literally people, I promise people want to go out and hug the trees. I promise people want to do that. That's not just like a weirdo thing. That's a real thing that people want to do, but they want to stay inside and like focus on making so much money and just feeding all of this hate. Like, why don't you make some tea and sit on the floor when you eat dinner and take your shoes off when you come inside the house and respect your elders and love the people around you? And maybe we'll get somewhere, because those aren't white influences. Those are minority influences. Like literally Asian cultures, you take off your shoes when you come in the house. Why can't we do that? Like, ew, take your shoes off. Why can't we all sit down, crisscross, and eat so close to the floor, the earth? That's so incredible. I'm sorry. I'm just going on a tangent because I love other cultures besides my own, because like I really don't want this bland culture. I really just want to like embrace it all. Like, give it to me all. I want it all. So I can like learn and flourish. I don't know. Again, unseasoned chicken over here. Like, give me something.
Yes.
Yeah, it's give me something. I can't dance either. Like, somebody teach me how to dance. I don't know how to do anything. I can't do anything. So somebody teach me. I have no palette. I have no like, I literally like, come on. I just want to learn things. Sammie teaches me things every once in a while. Like, I just want to learn things. I just want to be cool. And I'm not like super cool. Like, I just want to be cool. And that's where all the influences come from. The openness, the creativity, the art, the love, like all of it comes from everything that isn't from Europe. And it's like, hello, why are we like Hindu? Like, that's where the chakras come from. Where all those like white TikTok people, all like witch talk, that's literally like, that's another culture. And you can use it just as long as you're appreciating it and understanding where it's coming from and understanding all of that. Like, I don't know. Just give it to me all. I just want to do the whole thing. Go ahead.
I just love listening to Chris. Like, I could listen to Chris talk for hours, and I'm so happy.
Chris will talk for hours. Chris has ADHD. Chris has to get cut off by Sammie frequently.
It's so fine though. Everything you said was so relevant. So let me just pass it over to Faith to give her final remarks.
I just wanted to piggyback off what Chris said. That I agree with everything that you said. It makes no sense how do we, like, we can't even be comfortable with our own skin. Like how like we can't even be comfortable with our families. Like, how do you like with names, like derogatory names? Like, I remember with my family, I get so triggered that my family members call each other, I'm sorry for the word, nigger. I hate that so much. Like, why are we using this term that was used to derail us, that was used to demean us, that was used to basically break down our character? That because that term was basically saying we're stupid monkeys that don't know anything. And why are we calling each other that? That's like a woman calling another woman a bitch, or a gay person calling another gay person a faggot. That's not
literally it's all the same thing. And I've literally struggled with it with my friends also growing up, because a lot of my friends still use that terminology towards one another. And then I was like as a white person, I was like also kind of triggered. I was like, why are you like, I've grown up around people and other white people who are comfortable using like the N-word and things like that. and comfortable, like, and with other Black people comfortable with them using it, but I still like wasn't in that space myself, like with getting the card or whatever it's called. Like, I don't believe in that. Like, I don't feel the need to do that. Like, I disappear when it comes in a song and I come right back. Like, I literally, like, I don't need to say it ever. I don't feel like it's necessary. And like my friends growing up did it a lot. And I kind of didn't really get it as like a white kid. I was like, why are you guys saying it? But like, if I were to say it, like, that'd be really bad. But like, I get it, but also like, I wish everybody stopped saying it in a way, you know?
Yeah, and my family used this excuse like, oh, it means differently. Oh, we're saying it as a term of endearment. Oh, it's fine. Like we don't mean it that way. It's still the same word, and it makes no. And they think it's funny as well, and it's not funny. And
right.
I'm just saying, like, how?
And then you get labeled as sensitive because it's hurting your feelings, and then you're like, how is it not hurting your feelings? Because like, you're saying it because you heard it in a negative way. You weren't just born knowing that word. Somebody said that to you. And now you think it's a joke. And it's like, that's so sad that we've gotten to that point where it's a joke.
I also want to put in that a lot of the stuff that we are talking about, because I still do have family who lives in Europe, and like over in Poland, to be specific. And a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, that like white people, like the kind of like bad things that white people are doing, this really is kind of uniquely American, at least from my point, at least from what I can see. A lot of the stuff really is like, a lot of the arguments towards like these Black Americans and like saying the N-word, this really is kind of unique to America. And it isn't something that our ancestors brought along with them, because people like to say that their family, oh well, my great 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 grandmother was an indentured servant, so that automatically gives me the right.
So you mean they had rights?
Exactly.
Right. So they were able to go home at some point after 7 years. They were able to be released and go back to their family, while people literally lived in pen with pigs. Oh my God.
But yeah, like this really is kind of a very unique situation to America. And that's something that people they're too scared to talk about, is that we're America, and for the most part, we're trying to catch up to all of these different countries. Because yeah, we can put these laws into place. I'm kind of going to make like a bit more roundabout to previous questions and answers earlier. We can have laws against wage gaps. Doesn't mean there can possibly be zero wage gaps. There can possibly be no sexism. Yeah, we can have these laws against having separation between Blacks and the whites. That doesn't mean it's not still going to happen, even if it's just socially. Sorry, Ashley.
Yeah, Ashley, go ahead.
I agree with everything you're saying. Let me unraise my hand real quick. So I definitely think that it is our job as people, non-Black people, to uplift the Black community and let their voices be heard, because unfortunately in this country we have to do that because their voices are not being heard. So we have to do that. We have to be the face for them. We have to, until they get to the point where their voice is heard as well. So with that, let's see, Connie. All right, so Connie, really quick, and then we're gonna wrap this up.
Yeah, before we end the discussion, I just wanted to say that I think the statement Black Lives Matter is the bare minimum. I think that Black lives should be respected and loved. So it's absolutely absurd that people's like first instinct is to see that statement and argue with it.
Just craziness. People are just choose violence. They just wake up and they're like, I'm gonna punch a baby today. And it's like, whoa now. Why don't you love yourself?
And the insurrection was a prime example of that.
Yes. We woke up and literally chose violence that day. And it's like, wow. if everybody would just sit down together and then just look and that we're all the same, and that when we all take off this suit, we're all literally the same. Like nothing is different. Nothing is different. A pile of bones is a pile of bones. I don't understand. And it literally, like what Haley talked about before, how we all came from one Black woman, like that happened. Like that's just science. So if anybody argues with that, they're just like dumb and crazy. I don't know. Yeah.
Agreed. Agreed. Connie, did you okay, I'm trying to see who else. Sammie, you can go ahead and give your final.
Yeah, my perspective on just, you know, on all that. Yes, the impact of Black culture. Yes. So I think everyone kind of like spoke like on so many various parts of that. I think all I have left to say is kind of back to like what Krystopher said, like just don't make it a trend, you know, to care about Black people. And also I think one thing that's not talked about super often is like how Black people experience these things, because you know, like it's not like just in 2020 Black people started being arrested for being
Yes.
Black. Like it's been happening my entire life,
Yeah.
my mom's entire life, my grandparents' entire life. Like it's a like like every day of the week, you know, like I look like this, you know. Like it's not a passing thing. And even like when all of this like dies out in a couple of years, like I'm still going to be a Black person and things are still going to happen.
That's
So
what
I
I
think
think
like
about all the time. I'm like,
yeah,
my friends are still gonna be Black. Like, why is
yeah,
this a trend for some people? Like, literally, we
yeah,
will speak in 4 years from now, and you will look just like that, and I will look just like this, and we will still be friends. And I really
yeah,
don't understand. Like, I just
yeah. Like so I think like one thing is like a lot, and I see this often like social media, like a lot of people who are like not Black will be like, hey, why aren't you talking about this, in reference to like a Black person being arrested or a Black person being shot, or like I don't know, like a Black person like on like death row or something, and they'll tell like a Black person, like non-Black people will be like, hey, like why aren't you talking about this? And it's like, well, let's use critical thinking skills. Like why wouldn't a Black person want to talk about a Black person being on death row? like like some, you know, like not every Black person wants to have that at the forefront of their minds all the time, and always be talking about it. And it's really not like our job. I mean, we've been saying like, hey, leave us alone, like for hundreds of years, and no one listens. So like it's not our job to like if we want to take like a mental health break and like not, you know, like constantly be posting things about um all the horrible things happening to Black people, like that's totally justified because we're the ones going through it. So
yeah,
I
like
think a lot of
when
people don't think about that. They expect like every like Black person to go like every protest and everything, and it's like, well, you know, I personally don't feel safe going to protests
why
because
should
like
you have to fight for your life?
I'm like the target.
Right. Why should you have to
um
fight for your life? That's what I'm here for, Sam. Like, I'll literally fight for your life forever. And you too, Raven.
yeah,
And you too, Faith. And literally everybody in this thing. Connie, Ashley, Alicia, like literally everybody. I'm standing in front
yeah,
of all of y'all. Like, that's
yeah,
it.
exactly. So I think yeah, I think that's like something that's really like overlooked, is just like how people expect a lot of Black people to like be talking about it all the time, when it's like, well, we've been doing that forever. Like I've been saying I've been saying like since I could speak, like, you know, that, you know, I'm always like treated differently for like how I look, and like, And yeah, like a lot of people who aren't Black are just learning about this like this year. So I think since like all is so new to them and experience on a daily basis, they feel the need to like shove it in like Black people's faces, like, oh my God, did you hear this person got shot for being Black? And I'm like, dude, my dad gets followed in CVS for what he looks like. And that happens every year, all the time, not just in 2020, us in 2021, all the time. I mean, I literally like go to the mall. You know, I'll go to the mall. And if I go to a different mall, like a different town with like a lot of white people in it, they feel the need to follow me because they're like, what?
The
A Black person
police,
can't afford like Vera Bradley.
the
So something's
police
up, something's
literally,
wrong here.
like the police literally thought my friends kidnapped me. Like, are you for
Yeah,
real? Is this like really happen? I literally like was looking around and I was like,
That's
oh
insane.
no, this is real. You really
yeah.
think
I
they
mean,
kidnapped me?
yeah, there's also like tons of Black kids, including myself, who will be reprimanded in school for like for our hair. And like there are lots of like Black girls, especially in like elementary schools, who will be like sent home just because their hair like isn't straight. And they have to they have to reinforce laws across the country to prevent that. And a lot of states still don't have laws that prevent that. So there's a lot of like crazy stuff. I mean, like I used to dance, and I was the only like Black person in my dance group. And a lot of the times they'd be like, okay, like for this like recital, I just put their hair in a bun. And I'm like, well, that's kind of damaging to my hair type, so I don't really want to do that. And then they would get mad at me, and I'm like, well, the world does not revolve around white people. So, and they got mad at me for saying that, and I'm like, well, I'm just speaking my truth. But yeah, basically just like it's like being mindful of like the Black person's perspective on all of it, is like really important thing. I'm done.
Thank you so much, Sammy. So with that, I want to say thank you to all of our panelists for all of your amazing answers and for being here and sharing all of your perspectives. So now I'm going to give it to Raven to wrap things up.
Yes, so real quick, thank you everyone for being here. I really appreciate it and I love hearing from everyone. We definitely may have a part 2 of this event. Okay, I said definitely, that may. We may have a part 2 of this event because there's just a lot that had to be said. And I'm so happy, like if you watched the entire thing, I am so happy that you did. And you really should, because everything that was said was really important and needs to be talked about. So with that, we will probably, hopefully follow up on this. Details will be announced if that is the case. And yeah, thank you so much. If you would like to be a part of the organization, Student Life Activities and Planning Board, we will have the link to the Teams, the Microsoft Teams, in the description, as well as the link to our Discord. And yeah, we do things like this, events like this, parties, party events like virtual, and it's a really good experience. So I would love if you joined that. And once again, thank you everyone for being here, and thank you guys for watching this. And
Take care, everybody.
yes.